Guys, welcome back to 1985 show. Today we're doing something a little bit different. This is the first episode of our brand new series, Lions in Focus. In this series, we're taking things a little bit slower. We're going through Mill players one at a time, diving into the numbers, combining that with a little bit with the eye test, and trying to answer three big questions. What do they do well? Where can they improve? And how important are they to Millwall right now? If you enjoy Millwall content, make sure you drop a like and subscribe. It really helps push the 1885 show out to more Lions fans throughout the algorithm. And as always, get involved in the comments. Your opinions will genuinely shape what we do next. Joining me today, we've got Harry. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, all good, all good. A couple of good wins for Millwall. So, yeah, confident going into Saturday and looking forward to talking about Aziz today.
Yeah, it's always nice to film shows, isn't it, when we're on the back of a good run of form rather than the Portsmouth game, which was a little bit doom and gloom. So we're starting the series with a big one. No suspense needed. You've all seen the title. Today's player is arguably the Championship's most exciting winger, Femi Azeez. Now, before we get into really exciting stuff, just a little bit about Femi. Aziz joined Millwall from Reading in the summer of 2024. He arrived with a bit of an interesting reputation, I think it's fair to say, from Reading. He produced 17 goals contributions in his final season, but the label attached to him from Reading fans is a bit of a purple patch player, capable of brilliance, but a little bit inconsistent. His start to Millwall was a little bit slow, initially settled as a left midfielder last season before moving across to his more favoured right-hand wing role this year. And since then, I think it's fair to say everything's changed for him, hasn't it? So, Harry, I want to start us off with something a bit staggering, mate. This is astounding. And everything to today is at the time of recording, right? So things may change. But in the games where Femi Aziz starts so far this season, Mir would have averaged 2 points per game. If you then stretch that out, if he was fit for every game we've played so far this season, Mir will be on 71 points, top of the championship, joint top with Coventry. If you then flip that on its head, when Aziz doesn't feature, Mir will average zero point 0.8 points per game. If you then do the same maths and times that by how many games we played, that puts us on roughly 31 points. That's second from bottom. Now, football isn't obviously that simple, right? And the correlation isn't maybe quite as clear cut as a one for one. But Harry, we could almost end the show there, couldn't we, mate? That stat is incredible, ain't it?
Yeah, I mean, it just shows how important he is to the team. I think, yeah, it's a good stat to read and hear about, but it's also very misleading because there's been games we've won where Aziz has not been in the game. And there's also probably been games. I'm trying to think when he got suspended. I'm trying to think how we did. I think we won a game over that suspension period when he weren't playing as well. I think if you stretch it out, I don't know how many games he's missed this season, but I think if you stretch it out over the
I think
season,
it's about 11, I
we
think.
would. Yeah, we wouldn't be second bottom realistically without Aziz. Okay, we probably wouldn't be where we are now because he's our talisman. He's our go-to man when we want to create
Yeah.
something. But yeah, we wouldn't be that. So yeah, you have to take that stat with a pinch of salt. But yeah, it does show how good Aziz is for us and how far he's come. Because I'm sure we'll get into it. But his slow start and everyone was, there's a lot of people writing him off early, and now he's like, we need to make sure if Aziz's first name on the team sheet.
No, exactly, mate. And to your point, I mean, obviously, the stat we've just said almost assumes that the player that would be playing instead of Aziz produced no goals and no assists. Do you know what I mean? So if you actually that's just not the case. But it does really highlight quite how varied our results could be potentially with that if Aziz wasn't in the side. And would we be sitting in third in the league if we didn't have Femi Aziz?
You could say that, but then you could also say that about if you took Tommy Conway out of Borough. Where would
Yeah,
they be in the league? Where would, Hull be without Ollie McBurney? You can do that if you go through every team in the Championship that's doing well, you take out one of their good players, they're going to not be as good, are they? I think that's the difference. Aziz is very good, but we have also got other quality in our team.
but I mean, just to counteract that, people said for a long time if you took Harry Kane out of Tottenham to be a relegation battle, you have, and they are. So
Yeah.
sometimes it does play out. It's rare. It's rare. I take your
But
point, but I think it's just an interesting point, mate, because he's not just contributing, right? He is absolutely instrumental as to how we function as a football team. And I think it is fair to say that we wouldn't be where we are in the league without him. But moving on to some of his output, because, I mean, fairly elite attacking players ultimately get judged on their numbers, right, throughout the course of the season, whether we like it or not. So far this season, 8 goals, 5 assists. Only 4 championship winners have got more goal contributions, and one of them, I believe Jack Clark, has 4 penalties. So if you look at it from an open play perspective, he's in the top 4 championship winners in the league. And we're already talking there about some top tier production. He's already an elite winger at this level. But here's where it gets a little bit more interesting. So deep diving into the numbers here, and we're going to try and not get too heavy in the stats, but Aziz ranks in the top 4% of championship wingers for expected assists, top 4% for big chances created, top 2% for successful crosses. Harry, you could almost make the argument that them stats suggest that maybe his numbers could be even higher if it weren't for some poor finishing from the strikers in front of him.
That is literally it. That is literally. I mean, the amount of times Aziz has put a ball in the box and our defenders have hit it over or missed the target completely. I just glaring one to think back to Charlton at home with Coburn. Um, there's definitely been other ones as well. I'm sure the Wrexham one, because it's an own goal, doesn't count as his assist. I don't know if
No,
that.
no, it
I
doesn't.
don't. Yeah,
Neither does the
if
Birmingham
Ivanovic
one, to be fair.
scores it, because if Ivanovic touches it, it's in the near corner, so it's either way it would have been a goal. But yeah, it just I think that more highlights just how poor our front two strikers have been at times, or whatever
Mm,
way we play, and then the amount of chances that we have created, and it's not just him to be fair. I imagine if you looked at
no.
Nedgley's crossing as well, he seems to be putting a lot of balls into the box, but we just don't seem to have either one the personnel there, or number two, if they do get there, they're sort of mishitting it, rushing the shot. Our centre backs are better finishers than our strikers at times.
It's a bit embarrassing, but yeah, it's true. But again, I think it's just an interesting one. When we're talking about Aziz as a player, you look at some of them stats, you think to yourself, actually, if we had a, for example, Neil
If we had an
Harris,
Ollie McBurney, if we had an Ollie
yeah, yeah, yeah,
McBurney, we would
or
be
or dare I say
top
like
two already.
or a Kiefer Moore, who is like a proper number
Yeah.
nine that scores goals. He
Just someone
he
that
could
just throws their body at something. Just someone that throw their body at a ball into the box and they get on in a bit. That's all we need. And Ivanovic
exactly.
is never there. And if Coburn does get there, he blasts him over. So yeah, with Aziz, it's a bit like his stats probably actually could be so much higher in terms of his assists, but they aren't
Yeah,
because our strikers can't put the ball in the back in it.
no, exactly that, mate. And I think you look at some of the fact that he could be on comfortably. If you look at chance creation, he should probably be on about 10 assists now. He should, and he's not. So I think that again, just to look at the sheer number side of it, he's he's not just a player on the form. He does so much for Millwall in terms of creating chances, converting chances. Um, it's just instrumental to how we play.
He drags us
Um,
up the pitch. He literally drags us up the pitch at times. He gets the ball at the halfway line and he runs for 40 yards and all of a sudden it's near their box. Not many players can do that at this level. And, he
no,
gets us out of the mud a lot. And I think that's the one thing people don't credit him for. The amount of times he picks up the ball about 30 yards from our own goal and will run with it. And all of a sudden we're in their half now. And even if we don't create something out of it, it's just relieved a lot of pressure. He did that a few times against Birmingham.
mhm,
Yeah, he's just been instrumental to what we need to do this year. And there's nothing wrong having a talisman. Every team has one. It does make you
yeah.
think, if Aziz played for Borough, how many more assists he would have had with a Tommy Conway up front.
No, exactly. But mate, it's actually a fantastic segue. So you mentioned about him carrying us up the pitch and some of his dribbling. Again, this fascinated me. So he ranks top 7% for successful dribbles, top 7% of wingers for touches in the opposition box. Again, you're talking about the elite top of the top in this league. But and this is where one of his opportunities of his game is dribbling success percentage. So just to try and make that sound simple, completes a lot of dribbles, but he gets dispossessed or fouls with even more. So his actual success rate isn't actually that fantastic. That probably tells a story, right? Because I think for me, what I saw from that, and I think you'll kind of agree, and that reflects what you see when you watch a game. Millwall give him the ball constantly, and we don't necessarily give him the ball in safe areas. We ask him to attack defenders. We ask him to take risks and progress the play. We're not asking him to do a Saka or a like Grealish at Man City, where he'd get the ball, travel 10 yards, turn back, pass it backwards. Really safe by the numbers play. We don't ask Aziz to do that. We ask him to take risks. Harry, is there a bit there that's less around efficiency and more just about what we're actually asking him to do?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, our main outlet, I imagine Billy's and Casper's first look is where's Femi? Where's Femi straight away? Regardless of where he is on that pitch at the time, even if he's 5 yards away rather than 20 yards down the line, they'll look to give it to Femi straight away. So I think a lot of time I'd be interested to see a heat map of when's Femi's first touch once he receives the ball, because I reckon it's in our own half the time. And he's then expected to go
Yeah,
40 yards up the pitch. beat a winger, potentially beat another centre back that may come across. Don't matter how good you are, eventually teams will be able to not suss you out, but win enough battles against you that you're not just going to go 80-90% of the time past them. And
Mhm.
that's the difference. Where if you was to compare it to, I mean, I don't know when this is going out, but obviously watched the Borough game last night against Birmingham, and
Yeah.
their wings are getting it about 30 yards from the Birmingham goal. Well,
Yeah.
he's only got to do about a 5-yard run, and he can whip one in. That's a dribble completed now. Where Femi's got to go
Exactly.
about 40 yards, take on potentially about 2 men, and without losing it. And I think that's the main difference. Is you watch a lot of our games, and when Femi does get the ball, it's sort of 50 yards from goal, usually a poor pass if it's us,
Yeah.
and we're asking him basically, we're just going to run with you and just hope that you can beat the rest of the team and put a good ball in the box, and then we'll fire it over the bar and we'll reset. And that's our. It's not the only way we play. I think the problem is now we're getting a lot of credit with Aziz. We actually
Mhm.
do play a decent football, but it just when we're talking about Aziz right here, that is that's our main outlet. That's the first person you can see it. Casper will look straight away for
Yeah.
Aziz. Bill will look straight away for, and it's not because we're only one dimensional. It's because that's our talisman. He's the one that we know, we trust to get us up the pitch. And yeah, he will lose battles because if you're playing him a ball 40 yards from his own goal, he has to be a bit more safer with it to try and draw a foul
Of course.
or to allow the winger to sort of a fullback to come in, win the tackle, but go out for a throw in so he can then relax, get everyone up the pitch. But that's gone down as he's not completely dribbled them because they've got in front of him. So it's completely different.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of them stats where you think to yourself, actually, is there much to draw from that, or is it simply that's a byproduct of how we play, and actually you wouldn't want it any other way if he started to worry about that stat and he started to stop taking people on to try and boost his numbers, then that's probably worse for us. We ask him to perform magic, right? And every now and then that's not going to come off, but that's fine because it comes off enough.
Yeah, he's won us
But
enough games.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, on the same point, really, another stat that kind of jumps out for as a bit of an opportunity, he actually ranks in the bottom 3% of championship wingers for successful passes, which is terrible, right? That's you can't sort of decorate that as a
Yeah.
good thing. But again, I think you have to then apply some context to this, and his actual touches in a match sit around league average. So I think what that tells you is Millwall aren't a team that recycle possession, and we're not asking Aziz to recycle possession. We're not asking him to get the ball out wide and do a Bukayo Saka 5-yard little pass and boost the numbers and keep the ball moving and keep it nice and easy. We're asking him to go out there and make things happen. And we're asking him to play a difficult pass. We're asking him to do the difficult thing. I mean, and just to try and, well, what's your first thoughts on that, mate? We'll go from there.
Maybe not that low, but I'm not surprised it is low because,
Mhm.
I mean, just from where I'm when we're at Millwall, like we're right by that TV bit, so he's
Yeah.
first half always on our side, and the amount of times he cuts back and he just crosses a ball into the box, he doesn't even sometimes he hasn't got time to look up, he's just got to go right into the box. So rather than doing like that short pass back to the centre mid and play it safe, he will take that risk and just put the ball into the box and just hope that someone wins a flick on. We saw it against Charlton with the own goal, the first goal. And I think that was Nedley, but you know what I mean? Like, in
Mhm.
terms of that, we'll
Yeah.
put the ball into the box and put it into a dangerous area. So he will do that where, if you watch other teams in the league who do like to recycle the ball, their wingers will go back to centre mids and they'll go back now round to the left-hand side and try it there. Whereas these will get the ball and he'll just go, right, screw it, I'm going to try and put a ball in the box and make something happen. I'm either going to win a corner, it's going to be a goal, or the keeper's going to come and collect it. It's only going to be one of the three. And to be fair,
Mhm.
I prefer playing that way. I would rather our wingers get 1 in 10 crosses right a game and that one goes in the back of the net, than a
I
winger
mean,
that's going to take 2 crosses a game, and none of them are right. But the other 8 times he went backwards and it looked all pretty. I'd rather Aziz just drive at players. I mean, yeah, his crossing percentage, his percentage might be low, but that's because we've been asking him to do more than probably most wingers in the league in terms of his passes and crosses into the box.
no, exactly that, mate. Exactly. I mean, and football is ever becoming a numbers game. If you look at, like, particularly at the top elite level, they talk loads about ball retention and that sort of thing, and running stats and XG and expected assists and all that sort of thing. I feel like somewhere in there, so it's almost got a little bit lost of, if you want to make things happen, you have to shoot. If you want to make things happen, you have to put the ball in the box. And
Honestly, it's
Aziz
mental. You
does it.
think, yeah, put the ball in the box and make things happen. Like it sounds so simple, but there is obviously like reason behind why teams do keep the ball and
Yeah,
things like that. There is a method to the madness. But for me, like there's nothing more frustrating when you're watching a game. And to be fair, Millwall actually aren't that bad at doing it. There's other teams when we play them, and it's like, what are they doing? Birmingham were vulnerable to this, and it's just they knock it round the back. I'm like, surely this isn't fun to watch.
mhm,
It can't be
it
fun
can't
to watch.
be.
But
Yeah,
like, when you've got someone like Aziz, there's no point wasting him going back to Billy, back to Denor. And it's not that Billy and Denor aren't good players, but who would you rather have on the edge of the box? Femi Azeez putting a ball or having a shot, or Billy or Casper? It's one of them. So yeah, his stats might be low in terms of completion, but that's because, like we said, he's being asked to do things that you wouldn't ask the average Championship winger to complete.
no, and again, just to back that up, to try and put a number on it, if you look at the amount of shots he's taken, he's in the top 5% of wingers in the Championship for the amount of shots he's had on goal. So just to try and underline this point that we're making of, even if you look at the opportunity areas of his game, and don't get me wrong, I mean, we talk about some of these stats, you think if he can increase it by 5-10%, he'd be even better. But actually, we're asking him to do some really, really challenging stuff, and we're asking him to make moments and to make things happen. With that, it's high risk and it's high reward, and that's the kind of game that we ask him to do for us. This next section, Harry, really stood out for me. And this actually surprised me because I didn't think I saw this on the pitch at all. But it'd be interesting to get your take on it. Defensively, Aziz ranks in the top 5% for aerial duels won. So he's actually for wingers very, very strong in the air, and he's in the top 3% for possession won in the final third. So for a winger that I would regard as a flair player and one that we're looking to do the nice, pretty side, some of his defensive numbers are actually very, very strong as well. And I think that matters at Millwall because I think historically at this football club in particular, if you don't work hard defensively, if you're not doing a bit going backwards, you just don't play. So, Harry, for you, mate, how important is it that someone in that position still buys into our defensive, hard-working mentality? And did their numbers surprise you when you first heard them?
Yes and no in terms of, did they surprise me? Because like I said earlier, with the fact that most of the time he's picking up the ball in our own half, so he's already there. So it doesn't surprise me that he is always back. And I think, yeah, as part of a Mill team, you've got to have hard workers. Camille is one of them as well, where you've seen a lot of defensive work rate. There's no point our wingers sitting on the halfway line waiting
True.
because the ball's at our 18-yard box. We're not going to play that long diag, and it's not going to work for us. We need to be able to get out of pockets quickly and then fire in our wingers in behind a bit more closer to their goal. So yeah, I'm not surprised that he's done as well as he has defensively and his aerial duels won. Yeah, I wouldn't put him down as a defender, but I also don't think he is a fair player in terms of the fact that he's got that quality. But he's also
Yeah.
not one of them that he'll fade in and out of a game if the fullback's beating him. You get some certain
True.
players, you get sort of ones where they're either in it or they're not. Where Aziz is always, even if he's not having his best game, you sort of know, Aziz is out there. So yeah, I'm not surprised by them stats at all. I think, like I said, an Alex Neil team is organised from the back to the front. There's no flair player in the team. It's you give 110%, but when you get the ball, you need to have quality. And I think that's probably the difference between an Alex Neil team and a Rowett or a Harris team, where they were like hard workers. We won't concede. Alex Neil's one is more, yeah, we're not going to concede, but also when we get in the final third, we're going to be dangerous. We're going to be effective, and we're going to get the ball up the field very quickly. We're not going to waste time messing about with it. Let's get our best players on the ball. There's no point Coops and Taylor fanning about a bit for 5 minutes. Let's get the wingers involved that we know can produce quality. And if we score, we score. We've done a lot better recently under Alex Neil of just being able to create them moments of magic, and it comes down to players like Aziz and their ability to not only beat a man but take the risk that we're talking about to go on, and risk potentially losing it and getting the whole of East Upper giving him some jib. He's prepared to take that risk, and he sort of carried that weight on his shoulders, and he's going to be the reason we do or don't get it in terms of going up this year, because. Yeah, if he scores another 5-6 goals between now and the end of the season, you can put your money on us going up.
No, yeah, bang on, mate. And again, I think just to touch on top 3% of wingers for possession won in the final third, we are again, it's going to sound a little bit wokey, but we are a transitional football team, right? We're not looking to dominate possession. We are getting the ball, getting it forward. We don't muck around with the ball. We want to attack space. Part of that, and we've seen it multiple times this season. I think you could pull out several occasions, none the least being Birmingham midweek. We win the ball so high up the pitch frequently. We're constantly doing it. The midfielders, the strikers push on high, Langstaff pushes on high, the wingers push high, centre midfielders push on high. Often you're seeing Cooper winning tackles on the halfway line, right? And Taylor.
Yeah.
Taylor regularly steps in front of his man. None of that happens if the press isn't good from the front. He's massive for that, isn't he? I personally didn't think he was that sort of player. So that again surprised me.
I think last year maybe it would have been a bit different. Like I'm saying, I think Alex Neil's had a full pre-season to work on that. I think you saw glimpses of what an Alex Neil team looks like last season, and this year he's obviously got it right. He's obviously brought in a few more players for personnel reasons. But yeah, I mean, we've always been a hard-working team. Like even during the bad seasons, we've always been one thing, and it's been rough and tough and in your face. But I think the difference is now not only have we got that from 11 players, we've also got, like I said, that bit of quality out-wise. You know, Aziz is going to track back, win the ball, and then he's going to drive 60 yards up the pitch and win a free kick or put a ball in the box. Yeah, and I think that's the difference, where years have gone by, a winger might have won the ball 30 yards from our own goal, but the chances are we're not going to go anywhere with it. It's going to just get passed around and we're going to end up losing it, and then fans will get frustrated. So I think that's the main difference with Aziz, is that he wins the ball and he's just got that confidence where he goes, right, I'm going to beat you one-on-one. And you're either going to foul me, knock it out for a throw-in, or I'm going past you. There's no other way.
Oh, well, I mean, again, ironically, because this didn't make sense to me at all. Just to touch on the fouling element you just said, he is one of the Championship's best wingers for driving with the ball. He's one of the Championship's best wingers for taking a man on. He ranks very low for Championship wingers for fouls given against him.
Yeah, we don't anything that they move Millwall.
and you know what? I thought I'm not going to put it in my show notes because it'll just give me the ump. We're then going a bit of a tirade about how bad the refs are. But if you ever want to know sort of just how bad it is, there's a little fact for you that even that Femi Azeez is one of the Championship's best wingers and one of the best at beating his man, and we still don't get free kicks even though he gets chopped down 4 or 5 times a game.
Yeah, we don't.
You know, there you go.
It is what it is. Like he gets enough of the ball anyway. I'm sure we can live without 1 or 2 free kicks every now and again,
as long as it don't cost us. But Harry, this is the big question, mate. So Aziz, 24, for wide players, I think it's commonly regarded that their peak arrives at around between the age of 26 now and 29, a bit older than before with sports science and stuff. We've probably not even seen the best version of Femi Aziz yet. So a bit of a 2-part question here, mate. 1, what's his ceiling? Do you think he's potentially just a very, very good Championship winger? Or do you think he's a Premier Division player in waiting? And then 2, what does he need to improve, in your opinion, to get there?
Good question. I think right now he's a Championship player. It's hard to tell with the ceiling because he could go into the Premiership and play well, but the problem is you're not going to get many chances to beat. He's not going to beat as many fullbacks in the Premiership, and that's his main thing. Like now is obviously he's able to get the ball and beat fullbacks with ease. You know, you can't see him beating Kirkes or Cucurella in a foot race and things like that, and not beating them with just pure skill. So he is still relatively young in the grand scheme of football. He's still probably got another 10 years. I think he's going to be one of these players that is always very good at the top end of the Championship and might go up with teams. Let's say he leaves Millwall. I'm just going on the basis he leaves Millwall into the season. He'll be someone that will go to a team that's going to get promoted, then it will get relegated with him, and it will just be one of them players. It's the thing of wingers. Unless you are like an exceptional winger, it's very hard to stay consistent. Because like we said, you are judged on your stats. You're judged on your goals and assists. If we get promoted this year, Femi comes obviously with us, and he gets 1 goal, 1 assist next year, we'll be going, oh, he's rubbish. But we won't be looking at the bigger picture as actually going, well, actually, we've had 15% possession in every game. We're getting battered week in, week out. What do you want Femi to do in these situations? I think he could potentially play in the Prem, but I think it's more likely. You don't get much better, if that makes sense. You can get better. You just can't. It's the
consistency element, isn't it?
It's very rare that you go from being poor to just being out of this world. Like the only example I can generally think off the top of my head is Vardy. He was he was okay in the Championship and he went to being a well beater in the Premiership. And I'm not including players that come on loan to like
Mhm.
EFL because that doesn't count because they're young lads. But yeah, I think he could definitely be. He's definitely a top end championship. He's already a top end championship player. It would just be depending on who he went to in the Premiership would be if he could actually make it there. It's always hard with a winger. It's different for other positions, but wingers can fluctuate in and out of games.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And I mean, for me, again, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on this. I watch Femi Azeez, and the one player that he really reminds me of, and sort of bear with me a little bit because you're gonna laugh when I first say it. He reminds me a little bit of like Iron Robin, where you think he wants to come in on that left foot.
Mm.
We know what he wants to do. The fullback knows what he wants to do, and he wants to whip it into that far corner. Stopping him is a different matter altogether. You
Yeah.
can know what he wants to do. That doesn't mean you've got half a chance of stopping him because he's just better than you are. Obviously, he's not going to win Champions League, but he is that sort of player, right? And part of me thinks maybe that almost simple. I keep my game simple and I just do it to a very high standard. Maybe that actually leads to him translating better to a Premier League than, for example, I know he's much younger, but then, for example, like a Romain Esse, where you think actually his game was much more complicated. He wanted to take a touch, he wanted time on the ball. You're not necessarily going to get that.
Yeah, no, yeah, true. I mean, yeah, I mean, I said it when SA went that it was too early. We should have he should have come back on loan that January. Although we wouldn't have seen the Aziz we probably got now.
No.
Yeah, it's a hard one to call because with Aziz, like you said, he obviously keeps it very simple. I just think obviously the standards of fullbacks obviously are a lot better in the Premiership.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how much he would get the ball. And I think that would be the difference. Now he's obviously our go-to man. We're constantly looking for him, and he's always in space. Where in the Premiership, you're just not going to get that space to receive the ball. I mean, he's probably scored 3 or 4 goals this year when we've just done that simple ball over the top. I can think of QPR away, Leicester at home off the top of my head. You're just not going to get them kind of goals in the Premiership against the big boys or even just the average Prem club. So yeah,
No.
I hope he does it. I hope we go up and he scores 30 goals next year. But if I'm being realistic, he's probably he's a top Championship player that probably could have a couple of seasons in the Prem, maybe in his prime.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if we went up, if he was to get us, I don't know, 4 goals, 4 assists,
10 goal contributions, I think that'd be a good return.
that'd be a good return, yeah. And I just think it's an interesting. Obviously, this is all hypothetical, right? No one knows how it's going to deliver because he hasn't done it yet. And last year, none of us thought he was going to do this. So who knows what this guy's ceiling is? But I think what's important is that, like, statistically, stylistically, you can make a serious argument for he's maybe the most complete winger in the Championship already. I can't think of a more complete all-round Championship winger that I would have instead of him. I mean, he creates, he scores, he progresses the play up the field, he presses high, he defends well. And I guess most importantly, going back to our initial question when we first at the top of the show, Millwall just look like a much, much better football team and more likely to win and more dangerous when he plays. Harry, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, it's just confidence, isn't it? If it's like even when you play Sunday League football, if you know your best players available, it just
Yeah,
automatically feel like you've got an edge on the team.
of course.
And sometimes you turn up on a Sunday League and you've got the bare 11, you're thinking, no matter who you're playing, you're like, oh, this could be a tough game here.
Struggle. Yeah.
So it is a confidence thing. I know they're professional footballers, but you look around the dressing room and go, yeah, we're up for this today. Like we're good. So yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say with Aziz is probably if you went through every Championship club and they said, oh, you can have one player of Millwall, every single club would say Aziz.
I
You
think so.
know, where I don't think other clubs have that. With Coventry, you could argue you might have Rushworth in goal, you might have Hadji Wright. At
Hmm.
Borough, you might have Hackney, you might have Conway. So with Aziz, it's like you just see how important he is to the club in terms of the fact that we know how good he is, but also the rest of the Championship also know how good he is, and there's nothing you can
Yeah,
do to stop him either. Like you said,
exactly.
Championship defenders have tried and tried to stop him, and they might get the odd one right, but realistically, if we had a better striker, he'd be smashing the assist column this year. If we had a better striker, just makes better runs that allows Aziz to. The one I think of the most is remember Sunderland. Was it? No, it wasn't Sunderland. Of course, it wasn't Sunderland. They're not in the division. Southampton at home, where he just drives from the right into the middle, and
Yeah,
then he just puts it on bottom corner,
yeah.
just runs like that. But that was because if you watch it back, someone makes a really good run across. It basically just takes the defender that way, and that allows him then to have a fire at goal. And it's just things like that. If we had better players around him, we'd be tops of the league, mate. But that's just a conversation for another day, I guess. But yeah, he's you can see how important he is to the team, and you can see, when he got injured at Oxford away.
Mhm.
I remember because we were 1-0 up at that point.
You are, yeah.
Ballard obviously scored the header, and it just felt like we just accepted that we weren't going to win that game at that point. I know Cooper gets the goal for the second, but I just knew we weren't going to win that game then because we just had no outlet. And the players can obviously, they know that. Like I said, the first thing they do is they look for Femi. That's the first thing that all these players do. And yeah, I mean, if we don't go up, we're going to lose him, aren't we? That's the reality.
Probably, but I guess the only positive would be we'll lose him for a hell of a lot of money. That would be a figure that would potentially change the trajectory of this football club, right? So, just try and put a silver lining on that storm cloud. But guys, this has been our very first Lion in Focus episode. Let us know your thoughts. Get in the comments. I mean, one, do you agree with our analysis? How good do you think Femi Azeez can become?
No, you're
And
all talking rubbish.
what's that? Sorry.
No, you're all talking rubbish.
Yeah. And more importantly, who do you think we should analyse next? Who do you guys want episode 2 to be about? The most requested name is the player we'll pick out, and we'll go through the comments and we'll try and reply to every single one. If you've enjoyed this sort of deeper dive content, give the video a like, make sure you subscribe. It massively, massively helps grow 1885 show within the Millwall community. Thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. This has been an 1885 show. See you next time.